Hey guys, welcome back to Middle Class Reactions. Today we're going to take a look at the trigonometry and Mike Tyson interview. I'm sorry, not Mike Tyson. Neil deGrasse Tyson. Um, but I didn't know this happened. This was about a year ago, so this did happen quite a long time ago. So yeah, we're going to take a listen and see what they're talking about.
One of your functions over time has been to communicate scientific knowledge to the public.
Yeah.
And that's why I was quite surprised to hear you talk about the idea that we all exist on a spectrum where you wake up one day and you feel like you're more female and more male.
The XXXY chromosomes are insufficient because when we wake up in the morning, we exaggerate whatever feature we want to portray the gender of our choice. Suppose no matter my chromosomes, today I feel 80% female, 20% male. I'm gonna put on makeup. I'm gonna do that. Tomorrow I might feel 80% male. I'll remove the makeup and I'll wear a muscle shirt. Why do you care?
Yeah.
What business is it of yours to require that I fulfill your inability to think of gender on a spectrum? My only
Okay, so just to start, I'm going to try not to pause this during the debate too much, but something like that I just can't. I can't let that go by. Um, the the craziest thing for me, one of the craziest things for me, is that a guy who has built a career on asking questions about stuff that he has no reason to care about is now asking us why we care about something. I've never understood that with Neil deGrasse Tyson, because that's a common theme of his. Is he'll go, "Why do you care that so and so is doing this?" It's like you made a career on asking questions that you have no reason to care about. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is to say that XX and XY chromosomes are insufficient to know what's going on. It's like, okay, now you're insane. This is why people don't trust scientists anymore, is because Neil deGrasse Tyson's technically a scientist. It's like, okay, if that's what the scientists are telling me, don't tell me to trust the scientists, because that's actually insane. So, all right, let's keep going.
only point was that if who you decide is male and female in the street is a construct of of style and trends and what the beauty industrial complex wants you to see, if that's how we establish gender, then maybe some people want to be fluid within that gender identify. So they'll wear a skirt, but maybe have a beard, or they'll mix and match that in whatever way
But Neil,
you want.
sorry,
Hold on. I'm not. Wait. I'm almost done. So
Okay.
if a person using the tools of the beauty industrial complex wants to mix and match this,
Yeah.
and they are expressing their freedom in a free country to do so,
Mm.
why is your job to tell them not to?
Okay.
That's my
Here we go.
only point. And so
That's
I'm speaking of gender expression and the
Yes.
freedom to do so. And
I will
if you
tell you why
if you want to
why people are talking
restrict
about it.
that, then what
Nobody
country
wants.
are
Hold on.
we living
Hold
in?
on.
Yeah,
Hold
go
on.
ahead.
So first of all, I don't know a single person, and we've talked to trans people on the show. We have trans employees at Trigonometry. We've spoken to all sorts of people about this issue. I do not know a single person who wants to prevent people from dressing how they want, or behaving how they want, or choosing any name that they want. However,
Well,
the
wait,
problem
okay.
is,
So you don't, but you know such people are out there.
I'm
know
sure
this.
such people exist in the same way that there are people who
You know that.
believe that
Okay.
the Earth is flat and so on, but
Yeah,
they're
okay.
a tiny minority.
They exist.
It is
I don't know
not
how
a
tiny they are, given the dialogue today.
Fair
but go on.
point. Fair point. However, what I would say is that the conversation in the public consciousness has become prominent not between people who want to defend the right of anyone to dress how they want and the people who want to prevent that. The reason the conversation has become an issue is that we assign and allow certain privileges to people based on their sex. If you are female, you get to go to places that only other females are in, like changing rooms and toilets and so on. if you are female, you get to compete only with people of your sex because females are at a disadvantage in physical competition to males in almost every sport. In other words, we carve out certain areas where your sex matters tremendously, even though we may respect your right everywhere else to believe that you are whatever you are, to dress however you are, etc. So your claim that today you woke up and put lipstick on and grew your hair out long and tweezed out your mustache and whatever, and therefore you are female, has an impact on other people in certain contexts in which that is a problem.
You
and
gave only two
increasingly,
contexts. Do you have others?
sorry, I wasn't finished. And in those contexts, it is essential, people would argue, to protect women from unfair competition and from various risks for which female-only spaces already exist. That's why people are having this conversation.
Okay.
It's not out of bigotry.
Do you have more than those two examples? And I'll.
Okay, so this is one where the left loses a lot of people like me. I'm a normal dude. I didn't come from money. I don't have money. I'm just a normal guy. I'm not in the political world, and the fact of like I talk about it, but I'm not in the political sphere is like I'm some big talking head, or I'm in the government, or something like that. I'm a normal dude, normal person. I have a 9 to 5, normal working guy. This is where the left loses a lot of people like me, because it's like when someone is starting to make the argument of like, oh, you can have a beard and wear a dress or wear a skirt, and you need to think it's normal, and if you don't, you're the crazy one because you don't have the ability to think of gender on a spectrum. It's like, okay, you're actually insane. You're the insane person here. Like, I don't care what you say. Normal humans that are normally wired don't have a beard and wear a dress or wear a skirt. It's just not normal. It's not a normal thing to do. Do you have the freedom to do it? Yes, you do. I have the freedom to tell you that you're batshit insane and that you're weird. I have that freedom. And you can't tell me that I don't. This freedom thing goes both ways. Like, okay, you have the freedom to do that. Very much correct. I have the freedom to tell you that you're insane. That's how the freedom thing goes. It's just what it is. And for a prominent, because he's a very prominent scientist and a very prominent person on the left, because that's who the left, he's one of the people who the left looks to and goes, look, the scientists say that, this is very normal. That's where they lose me. Is like, okay, you are making statements that are obviously incorrect. Junior high biology will tell you that this is not correct. So why are you saying it? That I cannot get past that.
I'll address each of those in turn, but you have more than those two. Probably not. Okay, so let me address those two examples directly. I'll address them.
Sports is very important.
You said that. You don't have to repeat.
Spaces.
I remembered. So,
Asshole.
But you don't seem to have a third example. So, and even if you do, we presume that would be a very distant third compared to those two cases. All right.
No, there's a third one I can give you very easily. In this country, for politics, we have female-only shortlists for positions in Parliament. Therefore,
I didn't know about that. That's interesting. Okay.
Well, that's another example. I can give you more. So, female-only shortlists. There are certain targets within corporations for diversity targets to have a certain number of women on the board. Therefore, when you make a claim that you are female, you are attempting, whether intentionally or not, to insert yourself into categories that are deliberately designed to protect women's interests. That is the concern that people have. So there's 4 examples for you there. Please address them.
Sure. So interesting about the Parliament. I have to look into that to find out what is it try to ensure the representation of women? Is that the goal?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay, fine. So it's a perfectly noble cause there. So about personal changing spaces, okay? That's a solvable problem, of course. And we basically have accomplished that here in Manhattan, where I live. Practically all bathrooms are either multi-gender or solo bathrooms, so only one person at a time, or you walk into a space and there's stalls that are closed off, but then you exit the stall and you come to a communal sink, okay?
Yes.
So it's a solvable problem where everyone has a private space rather.
Okay, I don't have kids. I do have a niece and I have 2 nephews. I can tell you right now, if my niece were to go into the bathroom and there was a grown man taking a dump in the stall next to her, I'm going to have a problem with that. Like, that's not happening. That is not happening. And the same thing, my two nephews went to go use the restroom and they're like 11, 12, it's awkward time to be a dude. And there's some females in there in the bathroom doing their makeup or taking a dump or, whatever. It's like, no, not okay. Not fantastic. Or if my niece was, a teenager and she was on her monthly and she went to go in the bathroom and there's a dude in there, no, not happening. Not okay, not happening, not normal. And we should not be told that it is, and you shouldn't think that it is, because that's not okay.
Than for themselves, rather than having a gender private space. Okay, it's solvable on a level. By the way, let me give an example. We have a school from the early 20th century in New York, and I just saw it the other day. There's an entrance here and an entrance there, and this entrance says girls, and this entrance says boys. It's like, what the fuck? What? You separate them just to enter the school? I can look back on that and say that was ridiculous. You guys, what were you thinking? But back then, I'm sure it made complete sense that you're going to send the girls through that entrance, and there's an elementary school, and the boys through that entrance, okay? So it is possible to look back on whatever you were doing and say, my gosh, that was really short-sighted, and look at the solution that was proposed and implemented. That was a good idea. We moved on from that. Okay, so I remember boys' rooms where you come out and you whip it out and we'd all be peeing into a trough. Okay, we don't have those anymore.
We do because we're technologically very far behind.
Yeah.
Okay, so and then we had urinals just lined up on a wall. That was a little more private, and now those urinals have little small but real dividers, so you're not like looking over. So there are solutions to the privacy problem, and we've all but solved that here. I can't speak for every state in the United States. Definitely.
This is a classic example of creating a problem and then saying that we don't have a solution. We have a solution, but you created the issue. The solution is you have male bathrooms and female bathrooms, or the only solution that he said that makes sense is solo bathrooms, one in, one out. A lot of stores up here, I live in Northwest Washington. A lot of stores up here, they have the one in, one out, but it's to deter from thieves. So there's not near as big of a room a thief can go in and like stuff things in his backpack, And so it's like, okay, that makes sense. I actually kind of prefer that, I prefer a solo. But to say that, it's solvable, we just haven't done it in most of the country yet. No, most of the country still has a male and female bathrooms, and you're creating a problem and then trying to give a solution. But you created the problem.
Here in New York City, the bathrooms, it's not, all right, that's that. Second, with sports, very interesting. There was a case where a woman wanted to be they wanted to disqualify her from an event. She had very big muscles, and she had naturally high testosterone levels. Okay, she was genetically female, but unusually high testosterone levels, and so that weirded everybody out. So I'm wondering whether the future of those sports is you don't contest gender with gender, you contest hormone ratios.
Well, hold on a second.
What
but
do
the
you think of
difference the differences physiologically between men and women are not just hormonal. Women have a different hip angle. They have different heart capacity. They have different lung capacity. I mean, there are profound physiological differences, different bone density. We've had professional athletes on the show to talk about it.
I don't have a problem with that. So then you find ways to slice the population so that whatever the event is interestingly contested. So, for example,
you mean like having male and female divisions? That's a wild ass idea. Huh. It's almost like we already have it.
Example, I wrestled in my life. I was captain of my high school wrestling team. It would be unfair for me at 190 pounds, which is what I was back then, to wrestle someone 120 pounds.
Hold on. It would actually be unfair for you to wrestle someone who is also 190 pounds but female.
Let me work my way there. Let me just work my way there, because you are I respect how active your brain is, but I've thought about all this, and just allow me to speak it at the rate that I do.
Go
Okay.
for it.
So it would be unfair. So they have in wrestling, they said, let's make weight categories. Okay. So we make weight categories. So I don't wrestle the 120. I wrestle a 190 pounder. So a wrestling match is not just this one person against the other person. It's 10 matches. And each one is intensely interesting because they are matched. Okay. So what the trans conversation is foisting upon us is the need to find ways to slice the athletic universe such that we still have interesting fair matches. And is it a combination of, did you go through puberty um, as a male and then transition? Did you have puberty blockers? What is your hormone level now if you want to compete? So it requires more creative thought. Rather than saying no to it all, let's be creative about this as we were with wrestling.
That's just a wild idea. So to even think that you take a 180 pound or 150 pound female, that is just an athlete, just an absolute unit. You know, take CrossFit's a great example of this. You take a 150 pound CrossFit chick who's been doing this for 10 years, we'll say. Super fit, super athletic, just absolute stud. And then you take a male who's been doing this for 10 years, who is, you know, we'll also say, you know, the same 150 pound, 180 pound, 190 pound, whatever it is. Same weight across the board. They've been doing this the same amount of time. That CrossFit male will slaughter that female for the sole reason of the male bodies are built different, and we are built to withstand more physical abuse than a female. There is no getting around that. Doesn't matter if you match weights. And even, I forget, I think Constantine, this dude right here, and he kind of tried to allude to this, is like, even if you make it to where the same testosterone levels are across the board, which you're not going to be able to do, but even let's just say you do in a perfect world, the bodies are still very different. And to ignore that, and I know Nel Degrasse Tyson is smart enough to know that, if my monkey brain can know that. And so that's what bugs me. One of the many things that bug me about him is he's just being willfully disingenuous when he has this conversation. And I don't know why. I don't know if the left has something on him or if he's just wanting to play into that for whatever reason. I don't know. But I cannot stand the willful disingenuousness from someone as smart as him.
As we are with practically any other sport. In rowing, there's a heavyweight rowing and there's lightweight rowing. They don't compete against each other. Somebody came up with that to resolve the problem because more than one category of person wanted to compete. So I agree with you, it's an unsolved problem, yes, but it's not unsolvable given what we know about human physiology. So why not rise to that occasion and solve it rather than take your older view of the world and force modern emergent conduct of people to fit that?
Okay, well, can we just come back to the female shortlist and other opportunities that women are afforded by virtue of being women, and them now being excluded from that because males are entering that competition?
Yeah, so a deeper problem, thank you for bringing that up. A deeper problem there is, why were women underrepresented to begin with? What kind of bias exists within Parliament or among the voters, maybe even the female voters, that prevented the representation from being there in the first place? That's a whole other social question that maybe can and should be answered at a deeper level than a quota coming in after the fact.
Oh, I'm not a fan of quotas, but if
that's
they
how
exist,
I would address that question.
Hold on a second. That's not addressing the question at all. The question is, female shortlist exists. Should biological males be allowed to enter those female shortlists? That's as simple as the question is.
Yeah, I'm saying I would ask why you have the short list in the first place. It's because there's something deeper that's wrong with society, that women are underrepresented in governance. So to say now, to protect that now and not try to get to the root of that problem, I think is the cart in front of the horse. So I would go deeper. to that problem. So
But
you don't
there
even
are
have to
women
have that question.
whose opportunities are being curtailed today because they are being forced to compete, whether in sports or elsewhere, against people who have some kind of advantage over them.
We're in a transitional period, so we have to figure that out. But the way to figure out things that require solutions to progressive change is not to regress it to how things once were. If that were the case, I would still be drinking from a segregated water fountain. Okay? Oh, let's merge the water fountains and let's create the opportunities from below so that we don't even need the short list. Okay? That's how I would approach this. So yeah, we're in the middle of solving that problem now. Let's figure it out together.
I think a lot of people would have an issue with what you're saying, Neil, is because they see women being denied opportunities. They see an unfair playing field, metaphorically and literally speaking.
So fix the playing field, damn it! What don't...
We have that. I don't know. This is why I say it's willful. It's being willfully disingenuous. The playing field was fixed. Like, it was good. Women had their playing field, men had their playing field, and we didn't cross them. So, like, the playing field was perfectly fine and okay. Why are you coming in, and not just Neil deGrasse Tyson, but the left as a whole? Why is the left coming in and saying, like, hey, now here's a whole new set of problems that you didn't want, you didn't ask for, and the majority of the population doesn't support, and now the majority of the population that doesn't support this, you now have to conform to us. It's like, what?
Don't say it's an unfair playing field, so all of a sudden the big issue is trans women taking the slot of a woman in an unfair playing field. Fix the playing field, and you know something? The day you fix that playing field, this conversation will look completely ridiculous. That's...
Does he not real he is correct in one way. This conversation does look absolutely ridiculous. The fact that we have to have it is completely insane.
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
All right, so that is the left in a very nice shining example, and that is why overall I cannot, not overall as a I can't stand leftists. But yeah, that I cannot wrap my head around that. And the fact that someone that smart has gone down that rabbit hole, to me, is insanity. But that's what I got for you today. Like, share, subscribe, do everything you know you need to, and I'll catch y'all next time.